Okay. So this is a problem I just made up, and I just want to explain to you what does it mean when they give you one of these little tables. What are recombination frequencies, and then what is it that they're going to ask you to do? So, and again, I just made this one up. So this is not the one on the worksheet. The one on the worksheet is actually a little harder than this. So you'll notice here there's actually only 4 genes. You've got a whole bunch of distances, but you've only technically got 4 genes. The 4 genes in this particular one are A, B, C, and D. So these are the genes, and what they're telling you when they give you one of these tables is they're telling you that these genes are on the same chromosome. So this could be a chromosome, and somewhere on this chromosome are genes A, B, C, and D. What they're asking you to do is to figure out the correct order. For example, it might not be this. It might be this. I could erase this. It could be A, C, B, D. Or I could erase this, and this, and this. And it could be B, A, D, or B, C, D, A. These are all possibilities. That's what you're trying to figure out is what is the correct order of these genes. Now, how are you going to figure that out? Well, it turns out when they do crosses, they calculate how much crossing over is happening. And that's what the recombination frequency is. It's how many organisms are born that have crossing over happening between genes A and B. And the answer there is 5%. It turns out the map units, the distance between the gene is equal to the crossover frequency. In other words, A and B are 5 map units apart. That is a distance. That is how far apart they are. And that's the same for all of these. So B and C are 40 map units apart. C and D are 20 map units apart. So the recombination frequency is how far apart they are on the chromosome. So the way that you solve one of these problems to figure out the correct order of the 4 genes, my recommendation, and on pretty much any tutorial you look at, is going to tell you start with the 2 that are the farthest apart, which would be B and C, because they have the biggest number. So if this was a chromosome, I'm just going to draw like a horizontal chromosome here. If this was an actual chromosome, I could put B and C at the 2 ends. And I know that the distance between them is 40. 40 map units between B and C. Now I have to figure out where all my other genes fit. Where does D and where does A fit on this chromosome? Now there's multiple ways you can do this. What I like to do is look for one that seems to give that I already have one of the genes mapped. So for example, I'm going to go back up to the top. I already have B here. A and B are the closest together, and A is only 5 map units away from B. So it would make sense to me that A is probably like here, only 5 away from B. Now you might say, well, how do you know it's not on the other side of B? Well, that's a really good question. How do I know A isn't actually over here and it's just 5 away from B in this direction? Well, here's the answer. I have the distance between A and C, and A and C are only 35 units apart. So A can't be over here. If A was over here, that would make A and C 45 units apart, right? Because it's already 40 from here to here. So if A was over here, that would be another 5. That would make the distance between A and C 45, which is not the distance between A and C. So it can't go over here. A and C, it says, are 35 apart. Well, if I put a 35 here, isn't it true 35 plus 5 equals 40? So far, this map makes sense. These 2 distances add up to the total distance between B and C. So now all I have to do is figure out where is it that A goes. I'm sorry, I did A, D. Where does D go? Well, according to my information here, D is 20 units away from B, and it's also 20 units away from C. So where should we stick it? Exactly. D would go perfectly right here in the middle. That would make it 20 from here to here, 20 from here to here, and guess what? 20 plus 20 adds up to 40. Again, the same distance as B and C. So my answer, now I'm not going to ask you to make a map. Technically on the AP exam, I suppose it's possible. They could actually ask you for a map where you would have to do this and put the distances. The B is 5 units from A. D was 20 units here from C. And then if you had to figure it out, what would be the distance between A and D? Which they didn't give us. Exactly, it would have to be 15, right? Because we already know that the entire thing is 40. We know this is 20, we know this is 5, that's 25, this must be 15. However, I'm not going to ask you on the test to create a map. All I'm going to ask you to do is to give me the correct order of the genes. So on the test, so the answer to this, the distance between A and D, would be 15. You will not have to do that on the test, but that is something they could ask you to do on the AP exam. So your answer on the test, if all I ask you to do is to give me the order of the genes, there are 2 correct answers. You can either give me B, A, D, C, or C, D, A, B. In other words, I could read it left to right or right to left. It doesn't make a difference. That's the correct order either way. So are there any questions on how you create a gene map? It's really not difficult. But a lot of people, I think, didn't pay attention the first time I did it in class. I kind of rushed through it. And I think people just had no idea. On that homework, I got some really weird answers that were not 4 letters in a row. They were just weird. I don't know. I think everybody copied the same person that didn't know how to do it. All right, so that's what you've got to be able to do on the test. So I have one of these on the worksheet. The one on the worksheet, I'm just going to give you a warning. It's harder because it's got 5 genes. The one on the test will be like this one. It'll only have 4. This one has 4, and the 2 on the previous homework that I posted the key for, they both had 4. So if you can do it with 4, you're fine. But I did, for a little bit of a challenge, stick one on the worksheet that I'll show you right now that has 5.